Nice.
What is beauty? For most of time, the answer has been a very subjective one. Over the years, the impact from colonialism has influenced the answer to typically mean light-skinned.
So my mutual made a video on this. I'm going to tag them in the caption. Go send them some love and give them a follow if you haven't already, because I literally love their content, which is why I always tag them in everything that they inspire inside my brain. But regardless, I just want to touch on this because some of y'all need to get off the internet for 0.5 seconds, because just because there's a beauty standard on this app doesn't mean there's actually a beauty standard in real life, like in society. Like genuinely, there are so many attractive alternative beauty styles on this app that are not existing in society. And if you're calling a dark-skinned black woman a hypocrite and ironic because she falls into the beauty standard, I'm gonna need y'all to get a grip. A dark-skinned black woman, come on. She's gorgeous, don't get me wrong. Not the beauty standard, though, which is why it needs to be abolished, bro. Like, y'all, please.
But the specific traits thought to be the most desirable change at least once a decade. For many, reaching this ideal is impossible. While exercise and diet might change aspects of your appearance, one cannot direct fat or muscle to go where you want it to go, or cause facial features to reshape themselves. In the past, this often meant settling for creating an illusion of the wanted features. For example, the ancient Greeks preferred a pale appearance and used lotions made of white lead to alter their appearance. Many of them died from the resulting lead poisoning. In the 19th century, women wore corsets of metal boning to achieve the perfect impossibly thin waist and hourglass figure, which resulted in bone deformation and organ displacement. In China, foot binding was a way to ensure good marriage prospects, as the smaller the feet, the more desirable the woman.
This is Chinese foot binding, and it was a practice heavily used until it was banned in the 1900s. Back then, small feet were the beauty standard. If you were female, your marriage prospects were pretty much doomed if your feet were more than 5 inches. For females, foot size essentially translated into its own form of currency. The most desirable bride possessed a 4-inch foot known as the Golden Lotus. The Silver Lotus, which was also respectable, was a 5-inch foot. But over 5 inches were dismissed as Iron Lotuses, and the marriage prospects for those were dim. The process of foot binding usually began when the girl was around 5 or 6 years old while their feet were still malleable. They would break the bones and wrap the foot using a silk strip, tightening it over time until the heel and sole were crushed together. Not surprisingly, this method would often cause health issues. The tightness of the binding meant the blood circulation to the toes was almost completely cut off, so any injuries were unlikely to heal. This would often lead to infections entering the bones, causing them to soften and result in toes dropping off. However, that was seen as a benefit because the feet could then be bound even more tightly. Early in the 20th century, the practice began to die out following efforts of anti-foot binding campaigns.
Of course, to do so required breaking all the bones in her feet as a child and continuing to reshape them until they permanently set. As a 21st century woman, it is easy to look back and laugh at the foolishness of the women before us. We read of their mistakes and think we would never sacrifice so much for beauty. But of course, that's not true. Leaving behind the constant revelations of normalized beauty products like chemical hair straighteners and UV lights used for gel nails, causing cancer. Ignoring how high heels reshape the leg, causing long-term damage. Pretending that the mental impact of these behaviors is non-existent, we too have our metal corset and lotus shoe trend and the normalization of plastic surgery.
At me like, oh my god, you're gonna look really plastic, you're gonna look fake. But that's exactly how I want to look. Plastic and fake.
While beauty has always been a subjective concept, societal expectations and beauty standards have led women to take extreme measures to conform to these ideals, including the normalization of plastic surgery. However, the promotion of individual choice and agency through choice feminism prevents us from addressing the structural inequalities that underlie gender oppression and perpetuates harmful beauty standards. Beauty trends have always been somewhat unrealistic in that women cannot, through sheer force of will, transform their bodies into whatever is in vogue. But at least until recently, those bodies that they had hoped to achieve were possible. They were real women. Photoshop, lighting, heavy makeup, and of course, never mentioning aloud that all these tools were all used, have created an impossible depiction of woman. And even while we may be aware of this fact, we are not critically thinking about the creation of every photo we scroll past. We take in their messaging subliminally. We understand that these women, these impossibly proportioned, hairless sexual creatures, are unlike us. They are wanted, and so to be wanted, we must emulate them. Despite many thinking of ourselves as a post-feminist society, most women still define empowerment as confidence, rather than as the authority or power given to someone to do something. Empowerment, as found in Ishit's 2020 study, Real Me versus Social Media Me, Filters, Snapchat Dysmorphia, and Beauty Perceptions Among Young Women, empowerment is found to be nothing more than a good feeling. And what use is a good feeling when the products you use to achieve that feeling are actively harming you? Many argue that this is a matter of choice. Choice feminism is a strand of feminism that emphasizes individual choice and agency as the primary means of achieving gender equality. Proponents of choice feminism argue that women should be free to make whatever choices they want in their personal and professional lives, without being judged or constrained by societal expectations or gender norms. It is a philosophy of hedonism, of personal benefit and gain. As a result, it is the antithesis of actual activism, as the focus on individual choice leads to an emphasis on empowerment through individualistic means such as consumption or lifestyle changes, rather than addressing the structural inequalities that underlie gender oppression. This leads to a depoliticization of feminist activism, as individuals are encouraged to focus on their own empowerment and self-improvement rather than collective action aimed at systemic change.
And this is your sign to get one of our feminist t-shirts.
In other words, belief that your personal choice is inherently feminist and empowering prevents structural change from happening, as it resists becoming aware of the oppression you face or in mustering the courage to do something about it. Is it really a choice anyway if the other option is to be endlessly criticized, treated as if worthless because of those perceived flaws? Femininity has become so ingrained that discussions about whether conforming actions are empowering and how it's not our job as feminists to question makeup, shaving, heels, or surgery are useless because you can't have a fair discussion when these societal standards have warped our images of adult human females. How can there ever be a choice between embracing your natural body and performing femininity when people are unable to even fathom body hair, or a bare face, or practical clothes on women? Even in the taxi, I could hear my telephone ring. Calling me from Miami, Miami. What took you so long? I thought you'd never call. Miami, Miami. Miami, Miami, love me after. When people think we actually look like this, completely divorced from our natural bodies. This is what objectification is. Being stripped so much of personhood that any hint that a woman isn't a consumable, docile item is met with vitriol and backlash. Let's be clear, plastic surgery is not feminist, nor is it empowering. It can kill you, physically hopples you, and takes valuable money that could go towards infinitely useful things. Plastic surgery thrives on the creation of new insecurities. While nose jobs and breast enhancements have been commonplace for the past 30 years, one of the more recent surgeries stems from a trend created from porn, the labiaplasty. In Factors That Influence the Decision to Undergo Labiaplasty, Media, Relationships, and Psychological Well-Being by Sharp et al., it was found that women's motivations for deciding to undergo a labiaplasty procedure were characterized as appearance, functional, sexual, or psychological motivations, with concerns about the labia's appearance being the most commonly reported motivation. Correspondingly, women seeking labiaplasty were significantly less satisfied with the appearance of their genitals than the comparison group. These women had also experienced greater exposure to images of female genitalia on the internet and in advertisements and had internalized these images to a greater extent. While many claim that surgeries such as these are born from nothing and that they would simply feel better if the supposed issue fixed, the question they all seem to ignore is where these insecurities come from. The need to be viewed as pretty at all stems from the belief that women are to be prized first and foremost by their appearance rather than any other metric of worth. The beauty industry itself is built on the creation of insecurities that the industry aims to fill. Breasts too small? We have push-up bras to fix that. Have marks on your skin? A thick coat of foundation can erase them for you. Your vagina doesn't look like the ones in the porn your boyfriend watches? Well, we can mutilate it for you, potentially preventing you from having sexual pleasure so that the man you're with can be satisfied with the way it looks. All of this is to create profits for an industry that, no matter how much it may pretend at being empowering and women-centered, are primarily owned by men. The CEO of Sephora is Bernard Arnault, with a network of $213 billion. Victoria's Secret CEO is Martin Water, who has a net worth of at least $33 million. Men make up 85% of board-certified plastic surgeons, with 92% of cosmetic surgeries performed on women.
That's some really pink hair, like super pink. She got a little filler in her lips too, I think.
The wealth flow and those who direct the beauty standard itself are men. How is it in any way empowering for women to conform to male-derived standards of beauty, to give them our money, of which we have more roadblocks to earning in the first place? Plastic surgery is often presented as being a simple and permanent solution to fixing one's insecurities, with the danger often being downplayed. A July 2017 report by the Aesthetic Surgery Education and Research Foundation and Aesthetic Surgery Journal noted that 1 to 2 out of 6,000 BBLs resulted in death, the highest mortality rate for any cosmetic surgery. In 2018, the British Association of Aesthetic and Plastic Surgery advised surgeons in the United Kingdom to stop performing it altogether, although they couldn't ban it outright. The danger is not hard to trace either. The buttocks contain a multitude of blood vessels, some as large as drinking straws. They drain into the inferior vena cava, which is a direct line to the heart. With a BBL, fat is injected into the buttocks with a cannula or long metal tube. But it can be difficult for doctors to know where exactly they're injecting. They have sometimes mistakenly injected fat into the gluteal muscle or right below it. Fat can then travel directly to the heart and into the lungs, obstructing blood flow and causing immediate death. Additionally, due to the procedure's novelty, surgeons are unaware of long-term effects of the procedure. Dr. Arthur W. Perry, a board-certified plastic surgeon in New York and New Jersey and an adjunct associate professor of surgery at Columbia, is so worried that he refuses to do a BBL. "What happens to fat when you put a large amount of dead fat into the buttocks?" he said. "Because that's what it is, dead fat. We haven't even begun to see the cosmetic disasters of people walking around with moonscape buttocks, one cheek bigger than the other. The same can be said for procedures like breast implants, which are not considered lifetime devices."
What is this thing? Believe it or not, it's an implant. It's not a heart. It's been in somebody for 35 years and we're about to cut it open. So why does it look like this? This is actually the capsule that formed around the implant. The implant's on the inside. Now, every implant has a capsule that forms around it, but this is not normal. This is what's called a capsular contraction. What happened here is the implant ruptured, started to leak, the capsule felt or sensed that leak and contracted around that leak to contain it. However, that can cause a cosmetic deformity. As you can see, this is cosmetically deformed and it's very firm. So if you have an implant and it's misshapen and very hard, it could be a capsule contraction and looks something like this on the inside. So I'm gonna start cutting into this capsule here and then exposing what's on the inside, what the capsule has been containing this whole time. You can see that. That would be the mess inside your body had the capsule not contained that leak.
Ooh.
This is the old shell. This is all that gooey silicone that gets everywhere. Everywhere. As you can see, the inside of that capsule is actually smooth. The outside all rough and yucky, the inside nice and smooth. It's been a nice little home for that implant for 35 years.
The longer people have them, the greater the chances that they will develop complications, some of which will require more surgery. There is no guarantee that you will have a satisfactory cosmetic outcome from any reoperation. Complications can include implant complications like breast pain and lessened sensation, rupture and deflation, intensive scarring, and even full-body symptoms. Although yet to be formalized, many women have reported breast implant illness, a collection of symptoms including fatigue, anxiety and depression, chest pain, and hair loss that some women believe are linked to their implants. The standardization of beauty further streamlines the path from creating an insecurity to purchasing a solution. Plastic surgery stems from the blend of consumerism with patriarchal thinking, as it aims to modify a woman's appearance to fit these beauty standards, and reinforces the idea that a woman's worth is based primarily on her physical appearance. And when a beauty standard changes, what does that mean for the women who gave their all to commit to it? Perhaps the least discussed aspect of plastic surgery is its impermanence. The ever-changing nature of beauty standards have a significant impact on plastic surgery, as the industry responds to and capitalizes on the latest trends in beauty and aesthetics. Beauty standards, which are often informed by the media and popular culture, can be highly subjective and constantly evolving, leading to a persistent pressure for women to conform to the latest trends. Idealist Style has described the beauty standards of the past through a series of articles. They read, "The 1990s look suggested that women should be extremely thin, with bones protruding out from the skin. Collarbones, angle bones, and other protrusions were glamorized. This ideal included height, and that women who were very tall were considered more beautiful. The look is also centered around Eurocentric features, which meant that many high-fashion models had very pointed faces and sharp jawlines. This look was colloquially termed as heroin chic, as it was stated that most of these models were so thin they looked like they suffered from an unhealthy drug habit. A New York Times article from 1996 even stated that 90s fashion was a pusher of what appeared to be the best-dressed heroin addicts in history. In the early 2000s, the silhouette was very curvy to slender. The body should appear firm, chesty, or just plain super slender, but, no pun intended, very soon bootylicious was on the rise and the fuller hourglass followed. In recent years, there has been a growing emphasis on fuller lips, higher cheekbones, and larger derrieres, as seen in the rise of celebrities like Kylie Jenner and Kim Kardashian. As a result, plastic surgeons have reported an increase in requests for lip fillers, cheek implants, and buttock implants. Currently, this look is again changing to once again value thinness. So the question remains, if you have changed your body to appeal to today's beauty standards, what do you do when those standards change, but you are stuck in the past? Who aims to benefit from the system and its inevitable conclusion? Beauty standards are a means of social control, designed to keep women in their place and reinforce gender inequality. They are a form of oppression imposed upon women to make them feel inadequate and inferior to men. In her book Woman Hating, Dworkin wrote, "Beauty is a currency system like the gold standard. Like any economy, it is determined by politics, and in the modern age in the West, it is the last, best belief system that keeps male dominance intact. While women may manage to cash in on beauty currency in the moment, they will always be left behind as both changing beauty standards and aging itself are inevitable. Beauty is a borrowed and fleeting power that relies on outside validation to exist. Additionally, it's a homogenizing one that serves to make every depiction of beauty appeal to one type of viewer. It erases that we look like the people who came before us. When you get surgery, you erase your mother's nose, your grandmother's eyes, and the things that make you, you. These surgeries not only leave women all deemed beautiful in the exact same way, fit to the standards of that period of time, but leave women looking less and less like a natural, unaltered woman. It leaves women looking unnatural, as in strangely inhuman. The uncanny valley is a concept in robotics and animation that describes the phenomenon where a humanoid robot or character that appears almost, but not entirely like a real human, can evoke a feeling of eeriness or discomfort in viewers. This is because the characteristics of the robot or character are familiar and similar to those of a human, but they are just different enough to create a sense of unease. Cosmetic surgeries, particularly those that aim to alter the face, can create a similar effect in which the person appears almost human, but not quite. This can be due to various factors such as the unnatural proportions of facial features or the lack of expression in the face due to excessive Botox injections. When cosmetic surgeries are overdone, they can create an uncanny appearance that is neither natural nor fully human-like. This can cause an unsettling feeling in observers as the person appears to be almost real, but not quite, resulting in an eerie and discomforting effect. Additionally, the pressure to conform to ideal beauty standards in the pursuit of perfection through cosmetic surgery can lead to an unrealistic and unattainable standard of beauty, further exacerbating the uncanny valley effect. The dehumanization of women through adherence to beauty standards is also used to justify violence against women. This is particularly true in cases of sexual assault and harassment, as these surgeries create a climate in which women are objectified and dehumanized, making it easier for men to view them as mere sexual objects. Take a look at some of the most popular women today.
The actual last video about this New Yorker piece by Gia Tolentino. Tolentino interviews a plastic surgeon who says that Kim, Halle Berry, Lucy Liu, and Megan Fox all have similar facial principles in common that contribute to their beauty. He's kind of suggesting that there's a universal underlying principle to beauty, and that is the kind of formula that is being used when we're making an Instagram face. Because of my interests in the kind of media theory, postmodern aspect of the Kardashians, I was really interested in learning more about this. But I also really appreciated how evenly balanced Tolentino's piece was and poetically written. So I guess that's where I want to pick up. If the face is being treated like a code, and the aim is to turn it into a perfect product, which might be something that's always been expected of women, but increasingly we have the technological ability to actualize that aim, then what does that mean for us? More and more, everything is becoming a code. The
surgeries and makeup they use remove them from the likes of other women. They appear more like caricatures than anything else, and are therefore easier to dehumanize. This trend is further illustrated through pornography, both animated and real, as we center extreme and fetishized versions of women as being the subject of sexual desire instead of women in their natural state. This is quite similar to self-mutilation. As Dworkin wrote in her book, Letters from a War Zone, Plastic surgery is a mutilation, and it does not speak well of women that they will undergo such procedures. It speaks of self-hatred, of despair, of fear, and of a failure to confront the real issues in women's lives. Sheila Jeffries writes in depth about this in her book, Beauty and Misogyny. One of the most impactful passages is as follows. As we have seen earlier in this volume, definitions of what constitutes the behavior of body dysmorphic disorder look alarmingly like exaggerated versions of what is culturally required of women in everyday beauty practices. That is, excessive and compulsive checking in mirrors and adjustment of appearance. The forms of mutilation that are socially approved because they make women more sexually attractive to men, cosmetic surgery and some forms of piercing and tattooing, are usually separated out from the wave of self-mutilations or of more extreme or unusual varieties involved in body mortification. It is not clear to me that they should be, however. The seriously invasive surgery involved in breast implantation, for instance, will be considered savage if it was carried out at a body commodification convention. When it is done by surgeons in the name of relieving the supposedly ordinary distress of women about their appearance, it can be seen as unremarkable. The connection between amputee identity disorder and cosmetic surgery is usefully made by Dan Edelman, who asks, when in both cases the language used implies a sense of otherness with respect to one's body, wherein lies the difference in the decision to remove a foreign limb versus tucking the tummy or lifting the face of a body that is not a home. In the face of an epidemic in the West of increasingly severe forms of self-mutilation, it may be time to ask how the attacks on the body may be stopped. The fashion, beauty, pornography, and medical industries which justify and promote these forms of self-harm are parasitic on the damage which male-dominant Western societies enact on women and girls and vulnerable constituencies of boys and men. I don't think you need much more of a conclusion than that. I think that Jeffries does a very good job of putting this into context, and considering this was written in 2004, it's amazing what changes and what doesn't. So this, dear viewers, is where we part. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I figured this would be a good follow-up to the gender reassignment surgery video because, to be honest, they're quite similar in that they're all unnecessary, all dangerous, and they all reveal some mental health issues with self-image. And the fact that we allow these things to go on without commentary, without criticism, is just perpetuating a cycle of having unrealistic expectations of what the body should look like. Your body is not a thing to parade around, it is you. I'm happy enough that I'm able to walk, I'm able to go up a mountain, able to ride my motorcycle. I'm happy enough to be able to touch the world around me and drink and feel pleasure and feel pain and feel all these different emotions and sensations. That's enough for me, and that should be enough for most people. However, when you're performing for an audience at all times, it becomes impossible to become happy with just being who you are, just being you. So yeah, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns about the topic, leave them down below. You know I love getting video topic ideas from you. This was directly from a viewer. And yeah, I have Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee, and hopefully by the end of March, we'll have our first fanzine up and operating, which I'm really excited for because it'll go to charity. I'm debating on which one yet, but I would like to do one local to my area without doxing myself, which kind of makes it difficult to pick one. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!